Well, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi highlighted President Xi Jinping's global engagements, which have brought stability to a turbulent world. Looking at that diplomatic vision, what are the key areas that have been demonstrative of the fact that strong China-Africa friendship has withstood the testing of changing international circumstances?
I think one would say four quick points. That firstly, the relationship has been institutionalized through the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. It makes easy. It also makes the situation much better in turbulent situation as the one we're going through currently. It also strengthens Africa's the drive for industrialization as well as development in terms of cooperation. I think we've seen a sustained way of developing the African continent through cooperation, as well as there also has been that expanding of trade with the recent opening up of Chinese markets. And lastly, one would say political stability in terms of ability to negotiate, ability to deal with some of the major issues, whether through the AU, where China played a critical role in assisting Africa deal with its own challenges.
Dr. Monyae, from your perspective, how can Africa continue to leverage this relationship with China?
A number of things that Africa is required doing, and one would say have already started doing. I think, firstly, the focus on industrialization and value addition. I think we've seen more of that emphasis with more, given the huge advantage that the African has. It has 1.4, 1.5 billion and mostly young people, a huge asset. 60% of global land, arable land is on the African continent, and more importantly, the strategic minerals. I think turning all that above, it's a way in which African states have been sending students to Chinese university, cooperation on developing and refining some of these strategic minerals, as well as dealing with agro processing through recently signed free trade.
And finally, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi also says, listen to this, that the Global South is an emerging positive force for good on the international stage. To that you say what, and where is this most evident?
In a number of areas that one would find strong evidence that the strong relationship between the African continent and China has really indeed strengthened the global south in key areas. One would say the reform of global governance institutions. I think you have seen an elevated voice from the global south demanding changes within the UN system, particularly reforms of United Nations Security Council, other UN agencies. I think there has been a demand for them to reform, even though that change is slow. I think you've seen small shifts in terms of the appointment of people and the like, and the rise of multilateral platforms led by the global south countries. I think with BRICS, particularly the new development bank, these are new multilateral reform that enable the developing countries, more so Africa, to have a platform in terms of access to capital, as well as the South-South cooperation. We have seen an increase in relation within the global South itself, whether Brazil through into the African continent, into Asia, trade among global South countries themselves. And lastly, one would say the diplomatic relation among global South. I think we've seen the role that China played previously in bringing peace, mediation between Iran and Saudi Arabia. These are among many changes that one would say the rise of global south, it somehow brings a stability to the global order.